So when I was younger, I remember looking at my mom's meager makeup collection, and I mean meager, but I remember looking at her eye makeup, not eye makeup. I remember looking at her makeup collection and thinking, man, like this is so much fun. I want to do something with this. And I kid you not, this is what she had. She had a foundation that was way too light for me, and I definitely still tried to use it. But my mom's white, my dad's black, and so you got me. Um, but I definitely still always tried to use that. And then she also had this mascara and a emerald green eyeliner pencil that always looked fantastic on her. Like she would wear it and I honestly was always like, man, that looks so pretty. And it never really looked the same on me. Now, although there wasn't a whole lot that I could really do with her makeup, oh, I still tried. I still tried. I think this is pretty common, but as I got older, I had a lot more opportunities to steal my sister's makeup, to steal my friend's makeup, and, you know, play with that. But again, as I was playing with other people's makeup, I realized that things weren't matching me the same, that there wasn't really good matches, and also that it wasn't what I wanted it to be. And I didn't always get what I wanted out of that, which I think is really where color theory started to come in for me, is that I would like do this look and I'm like, but it doesn't look right. I want my makeup to look this way and it's not. This kind of leads me to the topic and the reason for this video, and that is color theory. I don't know if you can tell, but I am actually wearing the same eyeshadow, but I'm wearing a different base under each side. So the reason I did that is to kind of help to illustrate that the base that you're putting your makeup on does matter. If you're putting it on a white base versus a black base, or a yellow base versus a red base, that all actually matters when you're talking about makeup. That's why you hear people always talking about purple blush and how great it is for brown skin. It's very much a color theory concept. But we're specifically talking about eyeshadow and the colors that come from that. Now, before we dive too much into this topic, I need to mention a few things. The first is you do need to understand your color theory and what works with what. So let me give you an example. You have your primary colors, which are red, yellow, and blue. Those, essentially all the primary colors mean is that these are the colors that are used to make every single other color that you see. Without red, yellow, and blue, you can't make brown, you can't make pink, you can't make green. You have to have these colors. Now, off of that, you do have something called secondary colors. Secondary colors are essentially the primary colors mixed together. So red and blue make violet. Yellow and blue make green. Red and yellow make orange, right? So off of that, you have the other colors, which you can all make. I like to say that there are a few characteristics to each primary color that you can kind of start to tell which color does what. So first we have yellow. It is the weakest pigment, meaning that it's not going to show up as vibrantly in darker colors as it is in lighter colors. That being said, yellow tends to add vibrancy and it's the most reflective of the primary colors. Red adds depth or richness of color, I like to say. And then we have blue. Blue is the strongest pigment. You need the least amount to do the most with. It is also gonna draw in the light. It's not as reflective. It doesn't look as vibrant and bright. It will kind of actually do the exact opposite of that and kind of bring things and make them seem darker than they actually are. And now that being said, do you have a guess of what color I might have put underneath here? If you do, put it in the comments. I'm super curious if you guys can guess ahead of time what I have. Tonality, so like the warmth, coolness, richness, all of that is a separate thing from lightness or darkness. So the tonality of it is warmth, cool, neutral. Cool. What the heck is cool? Cool, neutral. I like to call how light or dark something is the depth of color. We're not talking about the depth of color today. We're specifically talking about the tonality of the color. What pigments are going to contribute to make it bring out certain things, okay? Something else that's interesting to note, and I realized after I did the swatches part, because I'm actually filming my intro last, that I didn't actually mention this, but you also have something called complementary colors, meaning that certain colors cancel each other out. So if I pop up my picture of my color wheel again, if it's opposite on the color wheel, it's going to cancel each other out, meaning that it'll make either a brown or a neutral color. So red cancels out, not blue. Red cancels out green, blue cancels out orange, and then yellow cancels out violet, or violet cancels out yellow. Okay, so if it's opposite on the color wheel, that's what cancels something out. So think of toning someone's hair. If you've ever had blonde hair, you know that you want purple to tone your hair and make it look not as yellow. Same concept. So when I did my red swatch over my blue, it did look a little bit burgundy, but almost leaning brown. That's why, is because it was essentially canceling each other out. Blue canceled out orange, and we saw that color swatch was a little bit orange leaning, and so it kind of did start to cancel it out. I can show you another example. I can show you more examples if you guys are interested, because I'm in that mindset right now. But if you want a really vibrant blue to show up, you're not going to put it on an orange base. You know what, now that I'm talking about it, I have to show you. I have to. Let me get out an orange base and I can swatch a blue over the top so I can show you. Okay, so I have my orange base, and then we'll jump into the color swatches of the night, actually. The regular scheduled programming. Let's say that. Okay. So our beautiful orange swatch. Well, blue cancels out orange. Let me show you. So keep in mind that we want the depth of color to actually be the same. So if I pick out a blue that's way darker than my orange, it may not cancel out completely, or you may see just a little bit of coolness peeking through. So you'll see that with this color. This swatch right here, this is a darker pigment than this one. That's what I was talking about, the depth of color. This is a deeper color, but we're still going to swatch it. Do you see that? So I am still seeing some blue poke through, but it's definitely not as blue. Let me show you this by itself. Okay, it's a subtle difference, but it is a difference. Okay, now that I have that out of the way, we're going to move on to the actual swatching portion of the video, so I can show you this in even more depth. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and do my makeup, do some swatches, and kind of compare what happens when you put makeup on different colored bases. So we're actually going to use this color red from the Pat McGrath Labs palette. We're going to use this one because it's a fairly good example of just a fairly bright, vibrant, orangey red color. So I feel like a lot of people tend to say to do their eyeshadow on a flesh toned color. That's honestly what a lot of eyeshadow bases actually look like. So if I swatch this orangey red color without anything on it, so I went ahead and dipped my finger in there and got in there really good. I mean, this is a fairly pigmented palette in general, but watch what happens when we go ahead and swatch it on a different base. We talked about red being a really, really good color for bringing back depth and richness to a color. So this is already a fairly rich color. I'm going to put some of this City Color Canvas base on here. Okay, got a little bit on here. Okay, so this is the City Color Canvas base that I've got right here. Let's go ahead and put a similar swatch on top of this. Again, same color, that Pat McGrath reddy orange color. Look at how much richness this brings to the color, because I'm gonna tell you what, as soon as we put this on, you'll be able to see a difference between the two. And even like this color by itself is very, very rich. All right, I'm gonna just put it over that whole base. Do you see how that transformed the color? I mean, looking at them side by side, we can see how red this looks compared to this. This kind of took on some of the tonality of my skin versus this, because the red is underneath it, that vibrancy and that richness of the color comes forth a little bit more. Let's do another color. Let's actually do blue, because I think that will be an interesting one to look at. So again, a City Canvas color. I'm going to dispense a little bit and we'll put it on my face. Let's do it on this side. Okay, so a little bit of blue. Now we know from color theory, wow, that did not swatch very well. There we go. There we go. That swatched a lot better. But we know from color theory that blue plus red equals purple. If you don't know that, then I suggest you going in and looking at color theory a little bit more, because this isn't going to make a lot of sense if you don't know like the basics of primary colors and secondary colors. But red plus blue equals purple. Watch what happens when I swatch this same red on this blue color. And I'm trying to let it dry in between. Oh, that was a little bit wet still. Hold on, let me let it dry for just a second, and then I'll be back and swatch it on top. That's a lot drier now. Now we're gonna go in with this color. Okay, again, swirl it around and get a decent amount on there. I mentioned before that blue adds a lot of depth to our colors. Do you see how deep, almost brown, like a reddish brown that looks, because I put it on top of that blue pigment? So this is the color by itself. This is under red. This is under blue. Remember I said that blue brings back richness? You really see it here. All right, last of the primary colors, we have yellow. So that's what we're gonna do next. We're gonna take the City Color canvas base and put yellow and swatch the red on top of that. Again, if you think back to like mixing pigments, we know that red plus yellow equals orange. We're gonna end up seeing a little bit of that orangeness come through. Okay, canvas base. These are kind of hard to squeeze out. Okay, I've got a little bit on my finger. We're gonna swatch it above because that's where I got the room. Now remember, yellow adds the most brightness to a color. It adds the most reflection. So this one is not necessarily going to be the brightest base on the skin because our skin naturally has yellow in it. But you're gonna see this come through in this swatch. The swatch is going to be a little bit more on the orange side, but you're also going to see it's gonna look brighter than this swatch right here. Pop open my Pat McGrath palette, and we're gonna put this on top. Okay, look at that. Do you see how orange that looks compared to that? In the palette, it actually is kind of a very orangey red. And on here, it looks that way too. But when I just swatch it on my skin, just as is, it looks more true red. This is the one that I swatched on a red background, and like that one looks very vibrant. This is the one that I swatched on a blue pigment. So just for reference, if you swatch it on a white base, what you're going to end up with is a very desaturated color. That's oftentimes what I was told to do when I wanted my colors to show up really vibrantly and really brightly. People were like, oh, put a white base down. Well, let me show you why that's not necessarily ideal. All right, I've got, this is just the NYX paint pots or canvases, I don't remember. This is the NYX eyeshadow base. Okay, that's what that is. Okay, watch what happens when I swatch this red on this white base. You're gonna see that it turns a little bit more desaturated. The color is less vibrant. This is akin to painting a white wall red. You're gonna see some of that white poking through. Do you see that? How there's not the richness that even my skin provides? There's just not the same richness there because it doesn't have the same depth of color that any of these other bases provide. So we're gonna see how this translates on the eyes, because obviously we're not gonna be swatching things on our face like this. I'm gonna go in with a yellow base because I like the way that the yellow is looking, and it's making it look true to pan. So we're gonna go in with the yellow base. On this side, we're gonna use the yellow base. And on this side, we're gonna do just a normal skin toned color. So let me put on the base. I'm going to use actually the P. Louise on this side, because this is often like people will use concealer or they'll use a regular eyeshadow primer and leave it at that. And while I love using a regular eyeshadow base as primer, sometimes if you're looking for very specific looks, it's not always the right option for you. Ooh, I forgot how pigmented the P. Louise bases are. All right, So that's on my skin. Let's get the yellow on this side, and then we'll start applying our color. Okay, so I've got my two eyeshadow bases on. Peelui's on this side, yellow on this side. No! I don't know what that noise was. That was like a combination of a hiccup and a... I'm sorry. Let me pick that up. I feel like I have the dropsies. Alright, so let me go ahead and clean this up off my face, and I'll be right back and we can start applying. Alright, I took that off my face. Now we're going to go in using this same eyeshadow palette. I'm going to use, starting with this color, because that's what we started with before, and that's going to be our transition color. So it's going to be in my crease and a little bit on the outer lid. This is so you guys can kind of see this in action, because honestly, when we did it before, we were using our finger to swatch it. So sometimes our finger doesn't get like a great representation of what it's going to look like. I'm going to start on this side. Since this is like our color without the base. Okay. Remember, this is like our desaturated side. There's nothing wrong with this side, but remember how orange and vibrant the yellow made this base? You can already see it. Oh wow, you can already see the difference that makes. All right, let's move on to, let's really quickly blend out this top color so we can get into some of the details. All right, such a difference side to side already. Let's go ahead and add a deeper red on the outside. So again, we're going to start with this side. And I'm going to kind of wing that section out a little bit. Okay, let's see what it does on this side. Do you see how the saturation is different? It almost looks like, this is what this almost looks like. It looks like I'm having a filter on this side versus this side. Like it looks like one side is filtered and one of them is true light. Okay, let's move into the center. So we've got this really vibrant red thing going on. Let's put this pink shimmer on it. So it looks like this. Let's look at what it looks on this side. It's pretty, right? I think it looks really pretty. But let's see what it does to this side. Like a pink plus a yellow. If you think about that, that is going to give it a little bit of an orange shift. Not a lot, but it'll probably be like rose gold. See that? All right, we're just gonna go ahead and clean up around the edges, make sure everything looks nice. I'm gonna use this brush and kind of clean up any of those edges that aren't quite working. Do you see side by side? This side almost has like a rose goldy shift versus this side is leaning a little bit more almost violet, I feel like. So more of like rose gold, more of violet. Super interesting. This one started with a white base, or not a white base. That wouldn't have worked. This one started with our yellow base, and this one started with a skin toned base. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and put on mascara and I'll be right back. Alright, so this is how it looks with mascara on. You can't tell me that the eyeshadow base that you use doesn't make a difference. Now, I get that not everybody has a bunch of different eyeshadow bases to use. However, you can mimic this effect by mixing just a little bit of your eyeshadow in with a either concealer or with an eyeshadow base or an eyeshadow primer, because then you're getting some of that pigment as the base. You don't necessarily have to have these fancy pigments in order for that to be a thing. I hope that you liked this video today. I put out at least one video a week talking about beauty, hair, skin, all of that. I think it's all very interesting. I hope that you'll like and subscribe, and also let me know if this is helpful. Bye!